everyone. So before I get Justin to introduce himself, I have a few questions for you guys. Who here is single? Raise your... Okay, look around. Who's, I hate this term, but who's taken? Okay, who's somewhere in between?
Taken.
I'm so sorry. So, Justin, who are you? I don't want to speak for you, basically. So
it's a deeply existential
question.
Yeah. Well, my name's Justin McLeod. I'm the founder and CEO of Hinge, a dating app. Started it back in 2011, before there really even were dating apps. So I'm rounding out my 15th year running this company, and really, I've just always been someone who's loves to bring people together, loves to connect people, super interested in relationships and intimate connection, and I think that this has just been my, personal dharma and passion project for the last 15 years.
Is anyone here on Hinge? All right. So there's been a lot of talk in the media about the dating app apocalypse, but Hinge grew its revenue by 39% last year. How did you do that?
I started Hinge, like I said, in 2011, and we originally started it as I just wanted to appeal to the next generation of daters and create something that was simple and easy and fun, because at the time there were dating websites where you had to fill out very long profiles and search through people, and you had to pay a lot of money to join. And the idea was, could you create something that really felt more like Instagram, or something actually closer to social media at the time, where it was easy and it was authentic, you weren't using screen names, and you could just appeal to the next generation. Because I was 25 when I started it, 27 when I started it, and my generation just wasn't using dating services, or if they were, they certainly weren't talking about it. So that was the original idea. And then when we rebooted in 2015, we did that in reaction to the fact that these apps had become really superficial, and people weren't just getting the results that they wanted. That if you made it too simple and easy and approachable, then people didn't put in a lot of effort, they didn't put in a lot of thought, and it was actually really hard to learn people's tastes and connect people who had similar intentions. And so rebooted the company and made our North Star, instead of engagement and retention, which is all the kind of focus of the VCs and what social media was measuring at the time, is how much time can you keep people in the app, how much time, can you retain them week over week and month over month. We just said, the only thing we're going to focus on is, did we get our users out on great dates? And re-engineered our product so that it was all about actually what is effective at getting people out on dates, and we've just made that our North Star. And it started slow, and a lot of other apps continued to grow much faster than us because they were more engaging and more exciting. But over time, word of mouth led to Hinge becoming now the fastest growing, and in fact only growing, major dating app. And yeah, we're now the most downloaded app in essentially the West.
Now, Hinge's UX is kind of interesting. You talked about when you founded it, reacting to the fact that people were spending hours filling out these long questionnaires. On the other end, you've got apps where you might just upload one photo and have a screen name. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about your approach to developing these profiles and the behaviors you're hoping to encourage.
Yeah, the art of this ends up being hitting this sweet spot of getting people to do things that are both approachable and that they're willing to do, but also signal a level of intention and create a level of vulnerability so that you can actually create connection between two people. And so, yeah, you can swing to one end where it becomes so easy and approachable that it's really hard. You send like on half the photos you see. You hardly have any information about these people, and so it's really hard to find your person. So yeah, we created a longer profile sign-up. You actually had to add 6 photos and 3 prompts and a lot of vitals and stats about yourself. We asked you to be much more thoughtful with your likes, to like individual pieces of content about someone so that people just got more thoughtful and acted more like a human, right? If you like someone, you would comment about something about them or try to start a conversation about some point of connection, you wouldn't just say like, I like you, do you like me too? And so we just tried to make the process much more authentic, much more human, and yet still relatively easy and approachable as well.
How do you feel when other apps do the same thing?
Flattered. I mean, we definitely took a big bet when we pivoted the company back in 2015, and I had offers even at the time to go and join another dating app conglomerate, and they're like, we'll just throw away your product and we'll just make yours the relationship-y swipe app, and I refused. I said I would rather just this company go down than like do that, and it was a big bet, and it's really cool to see it validated in the market, and now that we're the leader, I learned from experience when I did in the time from 2011 to 2015, we were copying the leader. Mm-hmm. We were thinking like, oh gosh, everyone's talking about the swipe apps at the time, so we need to do more of what they're doing, and I learned that you don't win in the market by copying the leader if you're not the leader. If you're the leader, you sure copy startups that maybe have a good idea, but you're not really going to catch the leader if you're copying what they're doing.
Dating behaviors during the pandemic were kind of crazy. I think we saw massive growth on a lot of dating apps. I think now some apps are sort of realizing maybe that wasn't the right strategy. What has it been like for Hinge, both during the pandemic and afterwards?
The pandemic, I think, accelerated growth for us. It moved people towards richer media and more comfort with things like video calls before a date or adding voice to their profiles, which actually is very, very powerful to use voice notes and voice prompts. And it accelerated our growth, but our growth has only, I think, continued since then.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, what kind of behaviors are you seeing Gen Z do on the app compared to other generations?
There's actually, interestingly, like not huge generational gaps in the usage of Hinge. It's a pretty universal experience. I think love is somewhat of a universal experience. Yeah. And I think that, yes, a bit more comfort using things like voice notes, voice prompts, things like that. We have things in the app that help coach people towards filling out better and better profiles. And so things like we just launched an AI-driven feature called prompt feedback, which sometimes you'll see if you're a user of Hinge or if you've ever used Hinge that people will write a 1 or 2 word answer to a prompt, which doesn't give you a lot of insight, like what's your ideal Sunday? And they say brunch. And so we, in order to actually have people fill out fuller profiles, we'll say where do you like to go to brunch? What do you like to eat? What do you like to talk about? And just coach people in that direction. And
so you're interviewing it out of them, basically.
Yeah, a bit, because I think you see just a wide, diverse range of behavior for different people. It doesn't necessarily cut generationally, but certainly some people are, especially in the realm of social media, have, I would say, atrophied social skills and need a little bit more help showing up and connecting with other people.
So I want to keep talking about sort of AI usage in the app. When did you start thinking about it? And tell me the ways you've implemented it in the user experience.
Well, I mean, one, it depends what you mean by AI, because that's a very broad term, and machine learning has been used in our algorithms since day one, and in trust and safety and identifying bad actors and all that. And then more recently, if you're thinking more generative AI, helping users select a photo, figuring out which is the right photo for them, the prompt feedback that we just talked about, Are You Sure, which is something that we launched, that if you send in a message that we think might be not be taken well by the other person, we can prompt you to say, are you really sure that you want to send that? And
I want to know what the most flagged, what the vibe is of all the messages that get the "Are you sure?"
You probably don't. But I will say that there are a lot of what we call like accidental bad actors that like aren't quite contextually aware of like what's an appropriate thing to send at this stage in the conversation, and we can help nudge them in the right direction.
Yeah, that's giving them a lot of grace for you, I think. I'm curious, New York Magazine came out with an article, I want to say it was yesterday or the day before, saying that generative AI is ruining dating apps in the sense that they found that a lot of users were having conversations with people and suddenly realized that all the replies they were getting were clearly fed through ChatGPT, whether it's like weird words or turns of phrases or, you know what I mean? How do you think about that?
I think that, in some sense, people have always turned to other people for help during their dating process, whether it's like reading a book or turning to a friend and like, how should I respond to this?
Yeah.
And so I don't think fundamentally it's that different, but you don't want to stretch to the point of inauthenticity where someone's feeding you lines. And I think it's somewhat similar to the trend we saw with like overly filtered photos in the early days of Instagram in 2012, 2013, and then that sort of went away because you lose the level of like authenticity and when you move in that direction. So I think we'll develop our social mores around and kind of ways of being around using AI that is like when's the appropriate way to use it, what's not an appropriate way to use it, and ultimately you do have to show up on the date. So if you misrepresent yourself too dramatically and you show up on the date and you're not merely as witty or whatever, then that's not going to be effective it's a waste of your time and a waste of their time.
Yeah, people have always lied about their height.
But only by an inch, you know?
By an inch,
you can't lie by your height by 6 inches. And so I think similarly, it's the same principle with using AI to maybe like touch up your conversations.
Tell me about international expansion. How do you decide which territories to go into? And also, I'm so curious, what are some of the biggest sort of dating behavior differences between countries that you've seen?
Well, we've been really slow and intentional about that's another thing that I think separates Hinge and its strategy from what you saw with some of the other apps, which is we didn't open in like 190 countries on day one. We really were thoughtful about how we expanded. We started in the US and then we expanded to UK, Canada, and Australia after a few years. And then only a couple years ago into Western Europe, where we're now the number 2 or vying for the number 1 spot in Western Europe for dating apps. And the reason we did that is because I learned I learned a whole lot of mistakes during that 2011 to 2015 period, like the first version of Hinge. And one of them was that growth was starting to stall, and so we thought, well, we need to keep growing. What do we do? We'll just like launch in more countries. But when you launch in more countries, it adds additional complexity. You've got to deal with more different regulations, and now all of a sudden you've like added your complexity with only marginal increase in growth. And it allowed you to cover up / ignore the core problem, which is that asking the hard question of like, why aren't we growing in our core markets and what do we need to do to fix that? And so we were very intentional about setting a principle around depth over breadth and really wanting to go deep in one market and feel like we were always expanding from a position of strength. And so that's what we've been able to do. And the other piece is that I think it's really important for us to be very thoughtful about our trust and safety support when we launch in a new market. Right? We're introducing you to someone on the internet that you want to go meet up with in real life. It's very much our responsibility to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep our users safe. And so making sure we do the research before we enter a market to really understand the cultural context, the trust and safety landscape is just a big core principle of what we've been doing. And so we just launched earlier this month in Mexico. We're going to be launching in Brazil later this year. And so those bring their own challenges with them. And we want to make sure, again, that we really enter those markets super thoughtfully.
I want to talk a little bit about monetization. There was a very nice lady, she was straightening my hair yesterday ahead of a panel, and she complained to me that she was like on all of these apps, so I don't know if Hinge was included or not. You have to pay to meet people at this point. You have to pay for that premium tier. Is that true? What is your approach?
It's not true. I will say that one of I'll keep talking about principles because Hinge is a very principle-driven company. Like that is very much at our heart, is not making decisions based on whatever personality happens to sit in a leadership seat at any given point, but what are the core principles that have led us to success over time. And when it comes to monetization, that one for us is that the free product experience is sacred. It is absolutely in our best interest to keep the free product experience very good, because if it's not, then users will start leaving, and the primary value for a dating app is the other people who are on the product. So people won't continue, no one will continue to pay if there aren't lots of people on the app who are happy and satisfied and using the app. So it's absolutely in our best interest to make the free product really good. The vast majority of users do not pay on a dating app. And at the same time, we do want to be able to be a business and employ all of our engineers and be able to market and do everything else we do. And so what we charge for, and this is another one of our principles, is that it's really basically for things that we can't give away for free, things that are valuable because they are scarce. Roses, boosts. Like if you had unlimited roses, then they wouldn't mean anything because it's
So what's
a signal.
a rose?
It's a signal of extra interest. You get one free per week and you can buy additional ones, but it's really to say like, hey, you're like someone that I really am interested in and I want to stand out. So roses or boosts, if everyone could boost all the time unlimited, like
And a boost is just when you show up.
when you show up more, but if everyone's showing up more, then no one's showing up more. So it's things like that, or things that hurt our ecosystem or hurt people's dating outcomes if everyone used them. Preferences, advanced preferences, things like that.
Tell me a little bit about advanced preferences. What are the kinds of things people can set, and what is your strategy around that?
Well, we have preferences around things like, basically if it's a protected class, we want to actually give that preference away for free. So, because if you are based on your religion or your whatever, we want you to be able to, if you join an app and you're a Sikh and you only want to meet other Sikhs, it's going to be really hard for you just to like peruse through and try to find someone. So like we don't want you
and guess their religion.
Yeah, precisely. So that would be very hard. And so anyone who's like in a minority group that wants to be able to find and associate with others in that minority group, I think that's really important. We charge for more advanced preferences around things that we don't necessarily think are critical to dating, but if they're really important to you and you want to do it, then if you want to filter by height, for example, then that's a paid feature. Yeah.
There's been a lot of really heady talk about the future of AI on dating apps. You spoke a little bit about interviewing things out of people. That's already rolling out now, coming soon. 5 years from now, what's this all going to look like?
Yeah, I think that it's the biggest way that I think AI is going to affect dating is much more personalized matching. Much deeper understanding of who you are, much deeper understanding of everyone else, and being able to make much more thoughtful and intelligent connections and explain to you why this person's going to be good for you. And I think it will look 3 to 5 years from now, probably sooner than that, honestly. It will feel relatively arcane to feel like you had to go through hundreds of profiles, if not more, in order to get out on a date. And also sort of almost feel like you're feeling around in the dark. Or the analogy I often use is trying to communicate your tastes and preferences to us using Morse code of likes and passes, right? Mm-hmm. We're like, well, if you like someone, we don't, like, why did you like them? We don't know. If you pass on someone, we don't really understand what it is that turned you off about that person. And the idea that you could explain to us in your own words directly who you are, what matters to you, what your values are, what your goals are, what your personality is, what really matters to you, what you found works for you in past relationships and what doesn't, and then use all that information to understand what type of person we think would be best for you, go out, and we've had that same conversation with millions of other daters and make really thoughtful connections. I think that is going to that seems clearly where the industry is going to go.
Do you think there is a big correlation between what people say they want and what they actually want? Does that make sense?
But not necessarily, especially when it comes to things that you would put on a dating profile. Like they need to be 5'9" or higher. I don't know why we keep coming back to height.
Yeah,
and like we found the perfect
really
person for you, but they were 5'8". Or like I really think I want to meet, I want to date you know, tech journalist. Like, I will only date a tech journalist. And
No one's ever said that.
and so I think those types of things people maybe would say, like, I thought I had a type and I didn't. But understanding people's values and their life goals and seeing like how they kind of align and like how they resolve conflict together, there's just like certain things that actually probably do predict whether people are going to be a good fit or not.
You know, a big conversation around any use of generative AI is privacy, and people on Hinge are sharing really sensitive or vulnerable data about themselves, not just in their profiles, which are pretty public, but in private chats.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think about that? How do you work with LLMs like OpenAI to, you know, make sure all of that is private? What does that look like?
Yeah, so we, first of all, Hinge doesn't do any advertising and we don't sell any data. So we are, like, the only way we really use data is to keep our users safe and to help them get out on dates. And you can, of course, create agreements with generative AI companies that the data, especially when you're an organization like Hinge, that the data that you use to train models or to or use their APIs, that data stays non-trainable for them. It's only something that is used for us.
Gotcha. You know, and sorry, this is a bad question order, guys, but we talked a little bit about the sort of preferences that you can set or filters that you can set, but you also have some additional features that are really interesting. I don't know exactly what it's called, but there's this ability to send a note before you start a conversation.
Yeah.
Tell me about that feature and the sort of idea behind it.
Sure. What you're referring to is match note. Mm-hmm. And this came from, so another principle at Hinge is that we really believe that if you design for the most marginalized groups, you'll end up finding things that actually appeal to a large swath of users and generally increase usability of the app. That principle's been kind of vetted out when thinking about designing an app, even in the simple visual way, and making it more accessible to people who might be colorblind actually makes it more usable to everyone. And so similarly, we were looking at, especially at the time we were talking to trans users, and we were talking to them about their challenges on dating apps. And we have another principle, I'll just keep talking about our principles, design with, not for, meaning like we always try to bring people who we're designing for into the conversation. We try to have them within our organization and hire a highly diverse group of people. And if we don't have them in the room, then we bring them into the room. And this is a case that we brought in Trans Tech Social, which is a nonprofit group that we were able to work with. And one of the big things was that there were these conversations or information that they wanted to convey about who they were, that they didn't feel comfortable putting on their public profile where everyone could just see it whenever they popped up. And at the same time, it was like a hard, awkward conversation to have with every single person after you matched to be like, here's the information that I want you to know. And so we developed a match note, which is a sort of a post-match reveal, which is you match with someone and then before you enter the conversation, something pops up and says, here's something else they wanted you to know, and do you still want to match with this person? And so it's designed for them, but like we've actually found like single parents use it, people with STIs use it, like all kinds of different people will use this feature, which just increases the general usability and accessibility of the app for everybody.
That makes a lot of sense. I want to talk a little bit about your marketing and advertising campaigns. So you put out books, you've had a Substack where you hire pretty well-known writers like Hunter Harris or Roxane Gay to write for you. I want to talk, first of all, tell me the purpose of that. And second of all, tell me what makes most people join the app. Is it word of mouth? Is it an ad campaign?
I mean, it's still certainly word of mouth. Like the vast majority is word of mouth, except of course when we're like launching in a new market and then we can start it. But that doesn't mean marketing doesn't do really important work. And another thing for me that I've kind of always believed about marketing is I don't like flashy, gimmicky marketing that's just about getting attention. We've really always tried to do marketing that feels like it's serving a purpose and helping our daters and informing our daters, and that's where a lot of this work comes from.
You've got the furry square though. That's pretty recognizable.
Our first,
Yeah.
so the Hinge ads. So our marketing is always doing one job, which is telling the story that this app is designed to be deleted. And so yes, we have our like furry app icon that meets its demise as people fall in love, and that's our like TV commercial, which is kind of just our like most basic form of TV commercial. But pretty much everything else beyond that builds on that story in a way that tries to help our daters, helps to shape dating culture in a way that we think is really good. And one of those has been, more recently, is sharing success stories. And when we share success stories, it's like been my dream since I started Hinge to redo those cheesy like 1990s eHarmony ads. I don't know if you guys even remember these, but like these couples standing on white backgrounds, very homogenous sort of like thing. And so we've done these like very raw with like real couples who've met on Hinge, like in their own bedroom, hanging out with their socks on, like telling the story of how they met and how it was like a messier, the relationship was going to go this way and then it went that way, and just showing that like love stories aren't always these like meet cutes, that they can have twists and turns and they don't look the same for everybody, and that's completely okay. And so we want to be able to like tell that story, and we've told it through hiring authors to write people's love stories. We've done it in the most recent It's Funny We Met on Hinge TV commercials, and yeah.
Do when you think about your users and dating app users in general, do you find they have like all of the dating apps on their phone and kind of rotate through? You know what I mean? Like, what does that behavior actually look like?
It's called like multi-usage factor, and yeah, a lot of people have 2 to 3 apps on their phone. A pretty high percentage of Hinge users only use Hinge.
Only use Hinge.
But certainly a lot of people are trying to meet someone however they can, and so they might have 2 or 3 apps on their phone.
How do you, Hinge is part of the Match Group. Match Group is its parent company. Other properties they own include Tinder. How do you kind of work within that conglomerate?
It's evolved over time. When Hinge was acquired back in 2018 period, Match Group pretty much operated like a private equity holding company where each brand was like its own business and had its own. We had our own payroll. We had like our own, we just like did our own thing. And over time, they started to integrate more of like the back office things. And now, we had a new CEO just joined in February who's thinking much more strategically about how you create deeper connections and leverage the power of the portfolio. So it's an evolving equation for sure.
But I'm guessing you don't want to give away too many of your secrets.
I would equate it to like sibling rivalry a little bit, but there's a little bit of competition, but also you want everyone at the end to succeed. And my belief is that, and this is more work that Spencer is doing, is I think when everyone has like a very clear lane of what they're doing and what they stand for and who their user is and what their values and beliefs are, then you don't have convergence,
right?
Because everyone's innovating on their own behalf. And yes, you can take inspiration and learn from things that other people are doing, but you don't straight up like lift features and start copying them across, which creates convergence, and if that kind of obfuscates the point of having a portfolio. And so I think they're just going to figure out how to get that balance right, I think, over time.
Beyond features, do you worry about algorithm convergence?
Well, I'll say that the algorithms are not really, like the uniqueness isn't really in the algorithm, it's in the data that they use to train the algorithm. Mm-hmm. And what is so powerful about Hinge isn't that we have necessarily smarter algorithms, although maybe we do. But it's certainly that the data is so much higher quality, because when people fill out longer profiles with more information, when people are much more selective with their likes, then that's much, much better training data. If you and I were to walk down the street and you just looked at people, you went down this row basically and just said yes or no, and based on no further information, and you said yes to half the people and no to half the people, I would have no clue how to match you up. If, however, I sat you down for 2-minute speed dating and you told me you liked 1 out of every 10 people, now I'm like starting to learn like what types of people you like and what
Right.
types of people you don't. And that's essentially the analog version of the difference between a lot of the swipe apps and what Hinge does.
We've got 16 seconds left. I'm going to ask you one last question. What's the best piece of advice you can give to people who are using Hinge right now to use it effectively?
I mean,
Pay for it. No, I'm just
no, it's that truly at the end of the day, like you don't want to engineer your profile for like lots of likes. You actually want to engineer it for like the right likes. And that means as much as you can really show up who you are, and even if that means it's going to turn some people off, it means it's going to turn the right people on. And I think that is the most effective way to make sure that you spend more time out on great dates.
Be yourself. That's so nice.
I mean, it's really, sometimes like the basic truisms are actually the most true, and we just have to do them.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.